Welcome back to the second part of our visit with Fernando de Castilla here in the Santiago barrio of Jerez de la Frontera. In part one, we learned a little bit about the history of this storage bodega and the business model that has been put into place here, proving that you can actually run a successful business against the background of significant decline of the sherry market over recent years. But let's delve a little bit more today into the actual wines that are produced here and enjoy what is, I think, a veritable masterclass from Jan Pettersen, talking about the range of sherries that they have here. And for those of you who are studying for any of your WSET programs, particularly the diploma and the dreaded D4 fortified wine section, I think Jan's explanation is how one can distinguish between the quite tricky sometimes to identify Amontillados and the Palo Cortados. This will be extremely useful for you. But anyway, enough. Let's get back to Jan.
These are wines that once dominated the world and made Jerez and the surrounding towns of the Sherry Triangle some of the richest places on earth. So now we've reached my favorite part of any of these episodes, as you all know if you've been following the series, where we actually get to taste some of the wines. And I'm particularly excited to have the opportunity to taste these wines because they're some of my favorites in the marketplace.
So, we'll start with the Fino en Rama.
Yeah.
Fino en Rama, which we have recently repackaged. We used to use a very simple, almost like laboratory type label, because going back some years, the enramas were generally consumed locally. And sometimes you go to a bar, especially in Sanlúcar, you ask for a manzanilla enrama, and you get a bottle without the label even. So, but it's become popular, so we have made a new label with a drawing of our cellar. So, the first thing we see with Fino en Rama is the color is slightly darker than a normal Fino. This is because of the fact that it's not been filtered or fined, but also because we choose to bottle a Fino en Rama with more time in the bottle. So this Fino is about 6 years old, and we find that it keeps much better because it's sort of been stabilized in the casks. So it's fairly bright, but if you compare it to our classic Fino, it's just a little bit less shiny. Yeah, okay. And that's also due to the sort of the Enrama process. And on the nose, what hits you is, the floor, the yeasts. It's very, very prominent. It's very, very fragrant, and I like this wine. Just slightly less chilled than a normal Fino.
Okay, interesting.
Because you get more of the flavor, more of the character. So it must be like chilled, but not straight from the fridge.
Not sort of 5 degrees, yeah.
No, not 4 or 5 degrees, a little bit more.
Yeah.
On the palate, it's very full. You have that sort of apple. You have like raw almonds, very noticeable. So like you get a little bit of biscuit, like when you drink a vintage champagne, you have that sort of biscuit character as well, and it has it. So, well, many people like good Fino champagne. It's almost like champagne without a bubble. And it also has that capacity of you can have it with very many types of food. You know, not necessarily only the traditional fish, seafood, pata negra ham, things like that. But it can handle a lot of different things. I like it a lot with things like cured or smoked fish, like smoked salmon, like mohama, things like that. Very, very, very good with, if you have clams, with a little bit of sauce, a little bit of dried paprika, things like that.
Not particularly easy things to pair with wine, but
exactly.
In this case,
well, I think that's one of the things with Fino sherry, is that you can, if you have a sort of tapas eating where you have many different things. Some things with fish or seafood, some things with vegetables, some things with meat even. It handles it. So locally, this is sort of tapas territory. Locally, a lot of people use Fino. And I think the Fino Rama has even more uses than a normal Fino. Or a Manzanilla. So we're very proud of this wine. It's very well received, and I think this Enrama concept will continue to develop.
I mean, almost all producers seem to have some Enrama offer these days.
Exactly,
now.
And it used to be a very, very small thing, and it's sort of growing in popularity. But it's not as easy as just a light fresh Manzanilla or a light Fino. Maybe it's more for the people that have developed a taste for sherry.
Yes, a sherry aficionado, perhaps.
Sherry aficionado would definitely be. And then, we'll move into the big brother of Fino, which is Amontillado. This is our classic Amontillado. Very fine wine. 10 years old. It's been aged under floor for about 5 years, and then aged oxidatively for a further 5 years. And I think any good Amontillado should be of that age.
Yes.
It's a wine that takes time to make. And to make a good Amontillado, you must be a reasonably good sherry producer, because you need to be able to coach the wine properly through the Fino phase, what we call the biological aging.
Absolutely.
And then you need to have a good solera of oxidative aging. So this wine comes from a Fino based, but then oxidized. Hence, we get a darker color. I'd like to say, the color of an Amontillado is like topaz, a topaz color, or like deep amber. And when you look at it, there's no legs.
No.
Because if it's been properly, it's been under floor for 5 years or more, the residual sugar of the wine is being extracted by the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very light in texture. And with an Amontillado like this, which is not our oldest Amontillado, you still really sense the Fino base. The Fino is there, but it's been enriched by the oxidative elements, sort of controlled oxidation. So you get very intense. I think Amontillados are probably the most intense and complex of all sherries, because for instance, an Oloroso comes straight from fairly neutral base wine, which has been fortified from 12 to 18% alcohol, and then spends the whole time
its life
in the oxidator. But since we start with a wine that already has a lot of character, when that is oxidized, you get more complexity.
Yep.
And Amontillado for many sherry aficionados is sort of the wine of choice.
Yes.
Because it's very dry, it's very gastronomic. You can use it with lots of different things. I have friends that love Amontillado with oysters, for instance. Not really my first choice when it comes to sherry and oysters, but you can use it with things, with fish and seafood. It's fantastic with sort of charcuterie, ham, things like that.
Yep.
It's incredible with things like mushrooms, anything with mushrooms.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So, and a good Amontillado should leave you with a hazelnut aftertaste, a nutty flavor. So, I tell people that do the WSET exams and everything, if you want to be able to distinguish an Amontillado from an Oloroso, first, texture, it's very light. Second, the color, that sort of amber topaz color, and the nutty aftertaste. And this has it, when you swallow a little bit of the wine, what stays in your mouth is that sort of nutty flavor. And I like it slightly chilled as well. Some people will have it at room temperature, which I don't think is the ideal. And I don't like it really cold either. Many people do, but slightly chilled.
Yeah, but you just lose some of the depth of the taste, I think, if it's too cold.
If you have a wine cabinet, sort of like 12, 14 degrees, that's good.
It's probably about right, yeah.
So we'll move on, and we'll get into the antique collection.
Okay.
And this is a Palo Cortado. It's a rare type of sherry, as you know.
Yep.
For many people, it's like the holy grail of sherry, because in the sherry industry, we do 40 million bottles a year of sherry, but out of that, maybe 60,000 bottles are Palo Cortado.
Yeah,
so it's a minute proportion. And the Palo Cortado also comes from the first pressing of the grapes, the Mosto de Yema. It comes from a wine that is started off as a fino, but has spent very little time under floor, so it retains a little bit of the residual sugar, but it has a little bit of that fino, the reminiscence of fino, and it comes from a lighter base wine than a regular Oloroso.
Yeah.
Regular Oloroso is the second pressing of the grapes.
Yep.
So we look at the color. It's sort of light mahogany color, a little bit more reddish. And here, there's a little bit of legs on the wine, not a lot, because residual is probably 2.5 grams. Amontillado virtually zero. So, but there's a little bit more texture to the wine. This wine is 30 years old, and you notice immediately. This glass, if you just leave it here, it sort of like fills up the room. It's like perfume. It's very, very fragrant. So it's incredibly, to me, I think it's very, very enjoyable. Although it's bottled en rama, you see it's clear. It's quite bright, and it stays quite bright. The only thing that might happen is that after a couple of years, you'll have a very fine sediment at the bottom of the bottle, and we put it on the labels of all the antique wines that after a few or some time in the bottle, you might see a small sediment.
Yeah, I remember reading that when I've purchased your wines before. Yeah.
Yes, and
it never lasts long enough in my case for it to
actually,
that to be a problem.
To me, the best glass of a bottle that maybe is 3 or 4 years old with a little bit of sediment, the last glass, is the best.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where you have the
Right.
because the sediment is not tartaric crystals or anything like that.
Right, right.
It's just a very, you don't notice it, you know. So also on the palate, it's very nutty, maybe more walnut than hazelnut. It's very nutty, it's very big, it fills your mouth. It's a very big, you know, it's a very, very big wine. You don't need big servings. That's why I say, you know, sherry is very good with food, because you drink sherry in a different way than you drink a regular wine. You know, regular red or white wine, you get a big glass and you look, you know. With sherry, without even thinking about it, you drink it, you sip sherry in a way. It's a little bit, fills the mouth and complements the foods.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So, you know, we do a lot of lunches and dinners here, and we always serve only sherry. And people say we will be sort of like getting very drunk. I say nobody gets very drunk, because you don't drink it the same way.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah.
And you know, Palo Cortado, you can use it for the same things that you would normally use an Amontillado.
Yeah.
You know, with soups, with consommé, broth, with, you know, vegetable dishes like artichokes, asparagus, light meats, anything with sort of mushrooms, especially wild mushrooms, truffles,
Yeah.
things like that. It goes very well. Cheeses, and as I said, you know, with charcuterie.
Yeah. Very wide range of things you can mix
use
with
it for
Yeah.
a lot of different things. So this is definitely one of my favorite wines from Fernando de Castilla. Then I thought, you know, just to show people, you know, the wide range of wines that are made in Jerez, you know, from very light finos to the older Amontillados, Olorosos, and we also make dessert wines, as you know, from a different grape, which is Pedro Jimenez, and I've chosen a sample of the antique Pedro Jimenez, which is more than 30 years old, made from sun-dried grapes, and as you know,
Yeah, that's the colour you expect.
well, you know, a young Pedro Jimenez, you know, when it's just pressed, will have about this color. And the sugar content will be about 280 grams of sugar per liter.
Yeah.
And when you get to this stage, 30 years old, the wine is jet black, like espresso coffee. Very, very concentrated. And here we are talking about more than 500 grams of sugar, because water and alcohol evaporates, but the sugar remains. So the wine has concentrated to more or less double the residual sugar, and the complexity is totally different. A young Pedro Jimenez tastes basically like dried grapes, like raisins. It's very low in acidity, and it feels very sweet, and it's very monochromatic. It's very one-dimensional. But when you age Pedro Jimenez long enough, you get much more complexity. You get figs and dates and leather, tobacco, wood even, and the acidity also builds up over time. Mm-hmm. So you know it's much more balanced.
Right.
So you see the color, jet black. You know, this is, we cannot call it shiny, but you know, it's clean, but it's, you know, there's nothing. We don't even use paper filter. So this is really straight from the cask, you know, with absolutely, you cannot do anything to it. It's so concentrated that there's no way you can pass it through any type of filter.
I think I remember reading something where you said you lose more of this one through evaporation than you actually manage to bottle and sell in the process.
Oh yeah, you do, yeah.
It's incredible.
So here, as I said, it's very rich, very complex, very long, good acidity, and it's a beautiful companion for any sort of like traditional desserts. Anything sort of toffee, caramel, fudge, chocolate. We use it a lot here with ice cream.
Yeah.
And even over ice cream.
Yes.
Vanilla ice cream and Pedro Jimenez is
So you'd be okay with someone taking your 30-year-old Pedro Jimenez and pouring it on top of their ice cream?
Why not? You can do it.
Well, that's great. That's a great kind of overview of, obviously there are many others here. You also have a sort of ultra premium range of singular wines.
Yeah, the singular wines. There's one Oloroso, which we recently won the International Wine Challenge. We won the Sherry Trophy, and on top of that, we also had the 2023 Fortified Wine Trophy.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which is for the singular
Oloroso,
more than 80 years old.
Okay.
Totally sold out. Don't have a bottle to show. And we also do a singular Pedro Jimenez, which is more than 60 years old.
60 years.
So also, was voted in the Guia Gourmets as one of the 20 best wines in Spain. Out of 6,500 wines, tasted blind, this was ranked as one of the 20 best wines in Spain, and full score, 100 points.
Really? Wow.
So we're very proud of those wines, but they're extremely limited in volume. So
I'm sure
it's something, something for the people that are really looking for something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Thank you. A terrific overview.
Thank you.
Well, sadly, that concludes our visit with Fernando de Castilla. I'm a huge fan of pretty much everything they do here, as you will have gathered, and I buy their wines whenever I can find them. But this is only my second visit to the bodega itself, and standing in this beautiful room, I'm wondering if they'd notice if I hid out here for a few more days. What really fascinates me about this bodega is the way they blend traditional artisanal methods, like, for example, the second fermentation on the antique Fino before bottling, something that occurred quite frequently in the past, but had died out of fashion. With more modern techniques, like being one of the pioneers of en rama bottling. In fact, many of their wines are bottled effectively en rama today. The use of transparent bottles, and also the eschewing of the VORs and VOS categorizations that they don't see as necessary for their own particular products. Jan Pettersen speaks about heart and soul being the essence of everything they do, and I think that really comes through when you visit the bodega. And I urge you to seek out their wines where you can find them. They do have great distribution in premium retail, and many of the world's finest restaurants offer their wines. So I urge you to look out for them. I also, of course, urge you, if you've enjoyed this program, to like and subscribe. It really helps us with the channel. And let me know if you've had any experiences with the wines of Fernando de Castilla, and anything else you'd like me to cover, as always, in future episodes. But until the next time we meet, salud y nos vemos.